China is starting to unravel its zero COVID policy, but instead of crowds out celebrating, this is how reopening is going in China. Closed shops, empty streets, people avoiding each other. Because for the first time since the start of the pandemic, COVID is spreading like wildfire in Beijing. People now either have COVID or they're scared to get it. So I just spoke to the shop worker in the store, and he told me that he's the only employee without COVID, which is why he can still come to work. And he says, I am the only customer who has come into this store all day. The only crowds I'm seeing in Beijing outside of hospitals like this and pharmacies. So he says his fever's gone down, but he still has a cold, hoping to buy medicine, but he's worried they don't have any stock because there's these long lines forming outside of pharmacies across the country. People are trying to stock up, but stuff is selling out. You know, for years, China has been demonizing COVID, playing up the risks of long COVID. And now suddenly, state media is publishing headlines every day saying COVID is not a big deal. It's whiplash for a lot of people. Because just weeks before, if you got COVID, your whole community would have gone into hard lockdown. This is such a major and sudden change. So China is finally opening up. How do you feel about it?
I feel it's pretty great. I wish they could have opened up earlier.
Has business been very slow or difficult?
You know, you can see there are not that many customers. A lot of people just got the virus.
Are you scared about getting COVID?
I'm worried about my parents and my grandparents a little bit.
People are relieved, though, that you no longer have to go to a quarantine facility if you get COVID. Getting sent to one of those rundown facilities was such a big source of anxiety before. And these health QR codes that have been used for years to track and dictate where we can go, well, the government is now saying that you don't need them to enter most public places. 喂，你好，我需要扫码吗？哦，不需要。So I don't need to scan my code. It feels surreal, though, that I can literally just walk in. 只能在网上。So she said I can only do online delivery, so you can't even sit inside or order inside in Shake Shack. So outside the Starbucks, they have a sign saying you need to show a 48-hour COVID test. Even though the national rules don't require it, in Beijing, you still need a recent PCR test in order to enter restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues. There are way less places now to get COVID tests in the city, and the lines are short because most people are just staying at home. But just a week before, at this exact same location, this was packed with people waiting in line. So behind me is a graveyard of COVID testing booths. It's like almost overnight in Beijing, they removed all of these testing locations, and here's the remnants. After years of harsh lockdowns, the government is finally letting people manage their own health. But people don't feel ready, and experts say the country isn't either. The country hasn't vaccinated enough of the elderly population and hasn't improved the healthcare capacity enough. So this reopening, it's going to continue to be messy and uneven.